Curt, Weiler, Pat Burnham here at Carter Finley Stadium after a gut-wrenching, disgusting, pick your adjectives. There are a lot of adjectives you can pick after a game like that.
Tell of two halves.
Yeah.
Definitely looks like, seemed like at the end of the game, second half, it was played under a full moon as we had here in Raleigh tonight.
It was a game that, when you look at especially the second half by itself, Florida State had no business winning.
Yep.
And yet there they were in the final seconds, deep in NC State territory, and it's a no-win situation because you have known issues about your kicker that you've been dealing with.
Right.
And that's a known commodity, and he is not no means automatic enough that you can count on Ryan Fitzgerald in his current shape. But they go really deep with plenty of time on the clock.
Yeah.
Time was not especially rushed. You still had all three timeouts. They aired out a miscommunication, a good play by the DB, a mix of things, and an interception that took away any chance of the win.
Yeah, Mike Norvell said on the last offensive play for Florida State that they got a catch coverage, kind of a match coverage, and that they rerouted Michael Pittman, and the DB just fell back to make the interception. Curt, one of the big stories of this game was FSU's ability in the first half to make big plays. They had 6 plays over 20 yards. On 3 drives they had that led to scores in the first half. They had plays over 20 yards. Then you come back in the second half, and they only had 1 drive over 14 yards in the second half, and that drive was the last drive of the game, where they completed a 31-yard pass to Johnny Wilson to put themselves in a position to get closer to the end zone. So, listen, Florida State has lived and died with the big play on offense all year. This game was a perfect example of that. Again, 294 yards in the first half. We said 93 in the second. So, couldn't sustain drives, as Mike alluded to in the postgame.
Yeah, some real bizarre plays. Say what you will about the defense. It was not a great game by the defense, but the defense gave them a chance. Time and time again, they got put in adverse situations. You want to talk about the most adverse of situations after the punt past the line of scrimmage where NC State took over after the red zone on a play like you never see. I couldn't tell you the last time I've seen that.
Yeah, I've been around football basically my entire life. I cannot ever say that I've seen that play before.
No.
Obviously, Alex Mastromano lost sight of where he was on the football field.
Well, he had to do that because I think it was going to get blocked.
Yes, he definitely felt pressure.
Yeah.
And then, I think for a second he thought about running the ball.
Yeah.
And then I think he saw something flash and decided I better kick it.
I'm not sure he was going to get there. He was probably going to have to make someone miss. And, he's not an unathletic kicker, but I don't know if he's athletic enough to pick that up.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is he needs to realize he needs to kick sooner. It's probably the resolution there. He got caught in no man's land. But the defense, pushed him way backwards with a couple holds, with a couple stops. And time and time again, it was field goals or stops that gave the offense quite a few chances. And after such a great first half where, they exceeded what NC State's allowing in yardage this season.
Yes.
In the first half alone, and then it fell apart. It was, in some ways, an opposite of last week.
Well, yes, it was. And listen, Florida State was its own worst enemy in some ways. Some critical penalties. Mike alluded to the roughing, not necessarily roughness against Dylan Givens, being a drive killer. Would have been 3rd and 1. Instead, it was 3rd and 17. Of course,
He doesn't often talk about penalties, but I believe he called the Josh Farmer roughing the passer awful.
Yes,
and I think he wanted to say something worse.
Yes, he stopped at I disagree with the penalty and decided not to go anywhere from there. But listen, an outstanding first half for both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
The second half was awful for the offense. They had 1 drive over 17 yards, as we talked about. NC State, on the other hand, who could not sustain any drives in the first half, had 2 drives of 10 plays and 3 scoring drives of 8 plays or more in the second half.
They got some good fields.
Yep.
They were helped by an FSU offense that couldn't stay on the field, that they kind of wore down in defense.
Yep.
When you're tired, when you're on the field as much as they were, I can only imagine how hard stopping the run is.
Yep.
And, credit to NC State for doing enough. They didn't complete a pass after Devin Leary went down in that game. I don't think the backup quarterback completed 1 pass. He may have only attempted a couple.
Well, and I don't think Thayer Thomas caught a pass for NC State.
No,
he
took
was
away their best weapon.
Their best playmaker.
Yeah.
If you told me that NC State was going to score 19 points and Thayer Thomas was not going to have a catch, I think we would have thought this game would have been a little bit different.
You saw the sadness and a lot of that on Mike Norvell's face in the aftermath. He kind of walked in and led by saying, there are a lot of guys in that locker room who are hurting right now because they definitely feel, despite the issues and despite everything else, that's a game they should have won. They were in scoring position late. It's a no-win situation, like I said, because It's just, I will say, I mean, I had plenty of people on mentions mad that they didn't settle for a field goal, when plenty of people before the interception were praying that wait a second for the loud machine, who were praying that they didn't settle for a field goal and that they had tried to attack like they did. And so it didn't work out, but it doesn't get any easier from here, shall we say, next weekend in Tallahassee.
Listen, you got Clemson coming into town. Lawrence Toll-Feely referenced it after the game. We have to have short-term memory loss. We got to get past this one. Tatum Bethune, our linebacker, FSU linebacker, said that, listen, we've got to finish. We did not finish this ball game, and they didn't. Listen, could not move the ball the second half. I think we said they had 93. FSU had 93 yards. One thing we had not seen, Curt, that's kind of stymied FSU's big play offense really all day, but we saw drops today that we had not seen from the wide receiving core. And then, of course, what we saw in the second half was NC State defense. We thought we'd see the whole game.
The interesting thing, I mean, my whole thing with the wide receivers now is they have really through 5 games, in every game, overachieved relative to our preseason expectations. Was this an anomaly, or was this maybe a regression to the mean? We're going to see over the next few weeks.
That's the great thing about college football, right? We assess this week and then move on. But listen, some days are bad days at the office.
Florida State 4-2 through 6 games. I think you look at that and you say it's frustrating because they were very much in for not some mistakes, both those two, and could be 6-0. But I would also say to that, they easily could have lost at Louisville. Yes. They easily could have lost to LSU. I think with teams like Florida State, where they're getting better, but they are still not talented enough to the standard and still just learning how to win maybe, some of these things happen. You're not going to win all your 50-50 games.
And I know that people will get tired of hearing this after 2 losses, but Florida State, despite its imperfections as a football team and its shortcomings in any individual game, the resiliency and resolve that they show, again, speaks to the culture that Mike Norvell has created. And it is disappointing for those kids. We saw it on Tatum Bethune's face. We saw it on Lawrence Toll-Feely's face. And really, we saw it on Mike Norvell's. And, he mentioned that this team competes. He expects that they will respond, that they will show their personality over the next 6 games as FSU tries to bounce back from this next week against Clemson.
This feels like a game that some people could do some therapeutic reading, some therapeutic watching about. We hope you'll do that on the Osceola. We will have plenty of stuff up there. We have some already, and some more will come. We appreciate you for watching, for sticking with us after a tough loss.
Yep. They don't ever get easy.
A demoralizing loss. And, but we'll see. I mean, there are still a lot ahead of this team. I mean, we're at the halfway point. Right. There are 6 games left. There could be some good ones. There's be some real tests. There'll be some rivalry games. It should be an interesting stretch.
Well, as we know, they're going to play a really, really good football team next week.
Yep.
But no team is unbeatable on any given Saturday.
And that's the only, I think, dare I say, really, really good team left on the schedule.
Well, you would think everybody else is 50-50 at worst, right?
Yeah.
And Florida State will probably be favored in some of those games on the backside of Clemson. But yes, listen, a game that really I don't think we saw the second half playing out the way it did after the first half. We really thought that Florida State would come out and continue to do the same things. And Mike Norvell mentioned, particularly on FSU against the FSU offense, that NC State came out and varied coverages in the second half and got more dedicated to stopping the run and the way they were playing the run. So, listen, they at NC State at the end of the day adjusted better in the second half than Florida State did, and was the key to victory in a very really bizarre game as far as how it went from first half to second half. But that's why we play 60 minutes.
Plenty of good stuff coming on the Osceola. Some therapeutic. We'll have the second watch on Sunday. Should probably be a little therapeutic tomorrow. We hope you'll check that out. Thank you for watching.
Yep, thank you.